Hi everyone, it's Todd Nauck, back with part 2 of this Teen Titans Go Terra commission, moving into the inked line work for video number 2. Let's go ahead and go right to the first question posted by you guys. Big Bot System posted on the Terra part 1 video. What kind of markers or inks will you use to finish her? I'm using the Pigma Micron markers, different line weight tips, mostly using a 0.8 for much of the contours and details of the different aspects of her costume or character or designs or hair or things like that. So we'll be using a lot of the 0.8. We'll come in with some finer tipped markers a little later on. I'll point those out when they show up. But that will be a bulk of what I use to ink this piece. And I will be using a Pentel Pocket Brush pen a little bit later on. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks for the question, Big Bot System. So I'm going in with the intention of kind of keeping an animated sort of look with this piece, and she's a character from the cartoon, though I only drew her as the comic book based on the cartoon, but maintaining kind of a little bit of quite a lot of it actually of that animated style, but bringing my own flavor into it. I use a lot of line variation in my regular traditional superhero style, but so I try to walk a fine line between kind of a more of a straightforward single weight line of a cartoon, but bringing the thick and thin variation to line weights like in a comic book to my Teen Titans Go style art. So that's what I'm doing here. With a Pigma Micron marker, I can get a little bit of a variation of a line weight in the from the tip of the marker by how much I press down or how light I go. You know, I can get a thick or thin line just from the marker itself. But I'm not going that route too much this time. Let's see, let's check another question here from Jason R. Bender from Twitter. Have you ever mixed watercolor with traditional? And if so, on the same page or different for the watercolor? Jason, you can actually see a watercolor piece video I had posted last year for the New York Comic Con St. Jude charity auction. I drew a Carol Danvers Captain Marvel piece, and it's right here on my channel. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, you can see how those results turned out. It was a lot of fun, and I hope to do more watercolor pieces, and hopefully if I do get a chance to do more watercolor art, I'll be able to shoot video of it and post it here on my channel. Thanks for the question, Jason. And here I am using the ellipse template for her logo. I'll also be using it or a circle template for her belt buckle. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, is that comic book artists, we are draftsmen as much as we are artists, so utilizing these types of drafting tools really come into play and help out a lot. So some people's style is to draw circles and ellipses freehand. Many of us use a template here to keep them crisp and clean, and especially in an animated style. Again, I want to keep that kind of a crisp, clean look, so definitely taking advantage of those templates. And if you haven't gotten any yet, I'd encourage you to, the young artists, to invest in a circle and ellipse template. You'll find that they are great tools and can really help out when in your art. So give those a look. Another question here by Crazy Studios. What computer do you have, and what Photoshop do you use? I'm a Mac guy. I have an iMac. Been a Mac guy for at least 10, 11, 12 years, and the Photoshop I am currently running is Photoshop CS4. So that's what I use, pretty much use on a daily basis. So thanks so much for your question, Crazy Studios. Let's see, Epsilon Rising 88 asks, what would you recommend for beginners trying to learn dynamic poses like what I did in the Magneto piece? My first bit of advice would be to check out the book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. They do a great job of explaining and kind of showing how to create a dynamic pose, especially like in a punch or a run. You know, action stuff is really where you want to get dynamic for sure. And they do a great job of that. I'd also say check out other how to draw comics books. You can really learn from those. Wizard magazine did a series of how to draw comics with different tutorials by different comic book creators. I have one of the tutorials, I think, in book number 2. So some of the artists touch on on creating dynamic poses. But a lot of it is just trial and error, just practice, just keep at it, just keep drawing, keep pushing yourself to learn foreshortening. Just look in the mirror, extend your hand towards the mirror and see how it looks with your hand in the foreground and how your arm goes backwards, or and sometimes I will pose in the mirror if I need to find out just the right kind of pose that I need, just so I can kind of get a visual on that, or take a photo or use photo reference. Really helps. So draw from life whenever possible, and just keep drawing, keep practicing. You will get better at it if you just keep at it, and it's just pushing through those challenges. I wish I had a better answer than that, but hopefully that helps out. And so thank you so much for your question, Epsilon Rising 88. So now we've moved here into the face, using the 08 for the eyebrow and the eyelashes, so they're nice, thick, and full. But then I come in with a 01 and maybe a 005 for the smaller, finer details of her face, to keep those lines crisp, clean, and keep her youthful looking. If you add more lines to a character's face, male or female, it's going to make them look older. So when you got a teen character, especially an animated teen character, a lot of open shapes, keep those lines thin, crisp, and clean, and you'll maintain that look of youth. Now I've moved in here to the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen, which leads me into another question here by Antonio Berrientes 94. Hope I got your name right there, Antonio. Or at least I pronounced it right. He asked, you said you used a Pentel Pocket Brush Pen in one of my previous videos. Was it hard to use when I first bought it? Antonio's purchased one, is having a tough time with it, and asked, do I have any tips? Well, again, experiment, just like as I mentioned with the dynamic poses. Just kind of get in there and keep practicing, keep using it. As you see, what I've been doing here with this with these rocks is that the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen allows me to create really thick lines and thin lines. The more I press down, I get a thicker line. The lighter touch will give me a thinner line. So it's creating a more natural kind of texture to the rocks, and creating the shadows underneath, and it's lighter there on top of the rock. So just kind of use it to just kind of let the marker dance across the page to create these kind of chaotic shapes. So start with maybe nature, rocks, tree bark, maybe water of sorts. And then graduate into using it on figure work, like maybe hair or things like that. So take it maybe baby steps and try those things first, just so you can get a feel of what the brush pen can do, and then utilize it in other parts of your drawing where you feel comfortable or warrant that. I rarely use one tool for every aspect of a piece I do. I'm using the Pigma Micron markers. I use the Pentel Pocket Brush Pens. I'll use a regular brush and India inks when necessary. It all just depends on what I want to achieve. So knowing what your tools can do and where is a good place to use them and where is the time to experiment. I also encourage you to try the Copic sketch markers. They have a very unique brush tip that really helped me develop more confidence in using a brush, because the brush tip is a little bit like a marker, but much more like a brush, and is a really nice kind of middle ground that the playing with that will help you hopefully get some a better feel of how a brush pen can work. So thanks so much for your question, Antonio. So we're getting close to wrapping up this piece here, or at least this stage of this piece of art. I've gone through and I'm erasing all the extra pencil lines. So it's nice and clean for the next video. But now that the lines are erased, I'll go in and then fill in all the black areas. Used to be I'd get anxious, I'd just go ahead and spot the blacks and then go in and erase, but if the black's not completely dry, you're going to smear that black ink and really frustrate yourself. So do the line work, erase the pencil lines, then go in and fill in all the black areas. So this is starting to wrap up, and in about 2 weeks I'll have the third and final video of the Teen Titans Go Terra commission, where it's the full color Copic marker video, where I will go in and I'll just render this out with marker. It's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to posting that. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thank you even more for posting your questions, and thanks even more than that for subscribing. Hope you had fun, and I'll see you here real soon for part 3. Take care.